Welcome to the deep dive. If you're looking for that shortcut to being, really informed without getting totally swamped, you're definitely in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today is pretty straightforward. Take a whole stack of sources, articles, notes, research, and just pull out the key insights from one single, very busy day. July 1st, 2025.
And it really was a packed day.
Absolutely. We saw huge global economic signals, major heat waves, big diplomatic moves, some weird cultural stuff too. I'm here to help unpack it, find those surprising bits, maybe give you a few aha moments.
And I'm here to help connect those dots, synthesize the information, look for the patterns. We want to get into not just what happened, but more importantly, why it matters, right? Give you that context.
Exactly. We're talking economics, India's diplomacy, the environment hitting hard, new U.S. laws, even some history.
Quite the mix.
Okay, let's dive straight in then. Global economics and markets. Big news from the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, speaking over the Sintra meeting. He basically said, former President Trump's tariffs kind of forced the Fed to hold interest rates this year.
That was the explicit link he made, yeah.
Even though, inflation's stable at 2.3%, unemployment's 4.2%.
Yeah.
So the numbers look okay.
The domestic numbers, yes. He did say further rate cuts depend on incoming data, but he also flagged geopolitical risk. And other central banks were sounding pretty cautious, too.
So are the Fed's hands really tied by trade policy here? I mean, couldn't you argue inflation's okay? Maybe it's just a convenient thing to point to.
That's a fair question. The data is stable. But what's fascinating, truly, is seeing that direct link being drawn so explicitly between trade policy and monetary decisions. Usually, central banks try to focus domestically, but when you have something like tariffs impacting costs directly, it really complicates their standard toolkit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
It forces them to look at this much bigger, interconnected global picture, makes the job way more complex.
And speaking of complexity and trade tensions, the markets were definitely feeling it on July 1st. U.S. stock futures were edging lower before the open.
There was some nervousness.
You had the Senate still debating Trump's big $3.3 trillion fiscal plan proposal, plus those tariffs hanging over everything.
Right, adding to the caution.
Yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Tech stocks were volatile, and Tesla dropped around 5%. Apparently after a public spat between Elon Musk and Trump.
Yeah, that definitely caught attention.
When you see personal arguments spilling over and hitting a major stock like that, it's kind of wild, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that Tesla drop isn't just about personalities clashing.
Okay.
It's a stark reminder, really, of how in today's world, a tweet, a public exchange, it can ripple through markets almost instantly, sometimes faster than the traditional economic beta.
Right. Sentiment moves fast.
Exactly. It shows that complex interplay. Government policy, big corporate leaders, market reactions. Sentiment can just pivot on things that seem, non-economic on the surface.
Okay, so while markets are jittery, Europe was literally, melting.
A brutal heat wave, yeah.
Just smashing records. Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, the UK. Temperatures hit 46 Celsius, even higher in some spots.
Truly extreme conditions.
And this wasn't just, it's hot. They had emergency measures, schools closed, outdoor work canceled. So what does that really mean for millions of people there, beyond just being incredibly uncomfortable?
Well, it raises a really important question, doesn't it? This kind of heat wave, it's more than just bad weather. It's like a live stress test on infrastructure, on public health systems.
Wow.
It shows you where the vulnerabilities are when climate change delivers these sustained extreme events. Closing schools, stopping work, those aren't small things. They're about preventing heat stroke, serious health risks. And it impacts productivity, daily life, everything.
Yeah, huge ripple effects. Okay, let's shift focus a bit over to India. July 1st was a very busy day there, too, diplomatically and domestically.
Indeed.
Prime Minister Modi made a historic state visit to Ghana, first one by an Indian PM in over 30 years.
That's quite significant, a long gap.
Yeah, aiming to boost ties, geopolitics, trade, really highlights that focus on strengthening India-Africa relations.
And what's fascinating alongside that is India really asserting its independent foreign policy stance, what they call strategic autonomy.
Right. Tell us about that.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar, made a statement basically saying no nuclear threats, specifically mentioning Pakistan, would deter India's strategic path.
Okay. And that was aimed at comments from former President Trump.
Seems to be a pointed response, yes. It signals India's commitment to making its own decisions based on national interest, not bending to external pressure or threats.
They're charting their own course.
Exactly. It reflects that broader trend of, rising powers wanting independent roles globally, challenging the old alignments.
And sticking with India, domestically, there was a key appointment. IPS officer Parag Jain officially took over as Secretary of RNAW, their main intelligence agency.
Right, taking charge from late June.
And also a big milestone for a major institution. The State Bank of India, SBI, celebrated its 70th anniversary.
70 years. Established back in 1955.
Yeah, it's the country's biggest bank. Hugely transformed digitally now. Apparently handled over, 77,000 crore rupees in profit last fiscal year.
Massive number.
That scale and longevity, it's impressive. But you wonder, with all the private banks, the fintechs popping up, is that dominance sustainable? Are there unique challenges for such a sort of legacy giant?
That's a really perceptive question. I mean, SBI is a behemoth, no doubt. Its journey from, a mid-century state bank to this digital player today really mirrors the evolution of finance itself. Their profits suggest they've adapted well so far. But you're right, the competition from agile fintechs, private banks, it definitely keeps the pressure on. It's a constant balancing act for them, I imagine. Leveraging trust and reach, but needing to innovate like crazy.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, a couple more quick points on India. They climbed one spot in the Global Peace Index, up to 115th. Iceland's still number one.
Still holding that top spot.
But this next one, I found this really amazing. Indian researchers cataloged 683 new animal species and 433 new plant types just in 2024.
Wow.
Kerala led the way. But just the sheer volume, 683 animals, it makes you realize how much we still don't know about our own planet.
It's incredible, isn't it? It really speaks to the biodiversity that's still out there and the critical work researchers are doing to document it.
Yeah.
These discoveries are vital for conservation, for understanding ecosystems, maybe even finding new medicines down the line. It just underscores why exploring and protecting the environment is so important.
Absolutely. And speaking of the environment, some good news on the weather front there. The Met Department projected above normal rainfall for July.
Around 106% of the average, I think.
Yeah, something like that, which is great news for farmers, right? Boosts crop prospects.
Huge for the agricultural sector. Monsoon rains are critical for India's economy, so an above-average forecast is definitely a welcome economic tailwind.
Okay, let's hop over to the U.S. now. Governance and legal updates. July 1st often means new laws kick in, and this year was no exception.
Right, a common start date for legislation in many states.
So let's dig into how some of these might directly touch your wallet or your daily routine if you live in these places. California, for instance, new gas tax hike.
Yep, that kicked in.
Yeah.
Also new rules on student phone use in schools and some seatbelt mandate changes.
Okay, and not just California, right?
No, Virginia had several new laws, too. Things like expanding employer liability for sexual assault by employees, stricter overtime rules, some car safety upgrades as well.
Quite a range.
And then you had Minnesota, Maryland, Desi, Mississippi. They all had new regulations taking effect, too, covering things like minimum wage adjustments, data privacy protections.
So quite a mix across different states.
It really is. What's notable is just the sheer breadth of issues being tackled at the state level. Consumer stuff, workplace safety, privacy, even behavior like seatbelts or phone use.
Yeah.
It shows how state legislatures are really shaping daily life directly, addressing local priorities.
Okay, finally, let's touch on a couple of cultural sort of miscellaneous tidbits from July 1st. Adds a bit of color.
Always good to have those.
For baseball fans, it was Bobby Bonilla Day.
Ah, yes, the annual tradition.
The New York Mets paid him another $1.19 million. This is from a deferred buyout deal back in 2000. It's the 15th year in a row.
Quite the contract legacy.
You have to wonder if he sends him a thank you note each year. Just legendary in sports finance, isn't it?
It really is. It's become this sort of symbol of long-term deferred contracts.
Yeah.
Provided flexibility for the team way back when, but boy, it's a long-lasting, high-profile payment now.
Definitely. And much lighter note, apparently astrology outlets noted July 1st had some kind of astrological importance for various zodiac signs.
Ah, the stars align.
Yeah, mostly just pop culture interest, something that often bubbles up alongside this serious news.
That is fun.
So what an incredible range of events for just one day.
Yeah.
You've got the Fed grappling with trade policy fallout,
Europe dealing with record heat.
India making major moves in diplomacy, celebrating institutional milestones, even discovering hundreds of new species.
New laws changing daily life across the U.S.
And yeah, even Bobby Bonilla getting paid again. July 1st, 2025 was definitely not a slow news day.
Not at all. And the real value, I think, in looking at a day like this is connecting those seemingly separate threads. Seeing how global economics impacts central banks, how climate change has immediate, tangible effects, how diplomatic strategies play out, how local laws evolve, it helps you build that richer, more informed picture of the world.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected in often surprising ways.
Exactly.
So as you think about everything we've touched on today, here's something to mull over. How do all these varied events from just one single day, a central bank decision linked to tariffs, a heat wave closing schools, the discovery of tiny new insects, paying off an old baseball deal, how do they collectively show us the deep, sometimes hidden, connections and the long-term forces shaping our world?
It's a great question to keep in mind. Keep looking for those connections.